Behind every great man or woman is somebody else. Always. Behind every great man or woman, there is a Dennis Ritchie. He built the foundation of every computer you or I have ever touched, and died almost unnoticed while the world mourned a CEO. Dennis Ritchie changed the world from a cluttered lab at Bell Labs, and almost nobody knew his name. While Steve Jobs and Bill Gates became billionaires and household icons, Ritchie sat behind a terminal in the early 1970s and quietly wrote the code that would make their empires possible. He co-created Unix, an operating system that would eventually power everything from internet servers to smartphones. Then, as if that wasn't enough, he invented C, the programming language that became the DNA of modern software. No press conferences, no IPO, no fortune. Just elegant, enduring code. C is quirky, flawed, and an enormous success, Ritchie once wrote, with the understated wit of someone who knew exactly what he'd built and didn't need anyone else's validation. Born 1941, Bronxville, New York, Dennis was the son of a Bell Labs scientist. He studied physics and applied mathematics at Harvard, then traded theoretical equations for practical algorithms at Bell Labs in the 1960s. Then he met Ken Thompson, and together they began designing something revolutionary, an operating system that would make computers more democratic, portable, and accessible. What started as a side project on a discarded PDP-7 mini computer became Unix, the blueprint for nearly every major operating system that followed. Linux, Mac OS, Android, the servers running the internet today, all trace their lineage back to those early Unix ideas. But Unix needed a language to be written in, so Ritchie created C. C was different. It was a low level enough to talk directly to hardware, yet high level enough to be readable by humans. Amazing, isn't it? What a story. It was portable. Write once, run anywhere. It was powerful and surprisingly simple. C became the foundation. Operating systems, databases, programming languages themselves, Python, JavaScript, Java, all implemented in C. Your phone, my phone's operating system, written in languages descended from C. The software running your car, your TV, your coffee maker likely touches C somewhere in its ancestry. Dennis Ritchie didn't just create tools, he created the language that taught machines how to think, and he never chased fame for it. He stayed at Bell Labs for decades, churned down lucrative offers, avoiding the spotlight. Colleagues described him as brilliant but humble, someone who wrote code like poetry, minimal, clear, eternal. Dennis was modest and generous, and Brian Kernighan, his longtime collaborator, said he never pushed himself forward, he just did the work. In 1983, Ritchie and Thompson received the Turing Award, computing's equivalent of the Nobel Peace Prize, for their work on Unix and C. It was the highest honor in the field. The world of computer science knew his name, but outside that world, he remained invisible. On October 12, 2011, Dennis Ritchie died quietly at his home in New Jersey. He was 70 years old. His death went almost unnoticed by mainstream media. Just 1 week earlier, on October 5th of 2011, Steve Jobs had died. The world mourned publicly and loudly. Front page tributes, tearful television coverage, memorials at Apple stores worldwide. But when Ritchie died days later, there were no vigils, no primetime specials. A few tech blogs wrote obituaries. Most of the world strolled past without noticing. The irony was almost poetic. But Dennis Ritchie, he had built this invisible foundation that made the technology possible the others that went after him were able to capitalize on in many ways, like Steve Jobs. Without Ritchie's Unix, there would be no Mac OS, no iOS. Without his C language, the software running Apple's devices would not even exist. Jobs stood on shoulders he rarely acknowledged, and one of those pairs of shoulders belonged to Dennis Ritchie. This isn't to diminish Jobs' contributions. He was a visionary in his own right, but it reveals something profound about how we value innovation. We celebrate the showmen, the salespeople, the ones who put technology in beautiful packaging and convince us we need it, just like we somehow get lost in the lack of depth Hollywood scene and all of those, or the majority of those celebrities, empty and void of soul. We overlook the builders, the ones in the back room, writing the invisible code that makes everything work. Ritchie never wanted the spotlight. He didn't build C and Unix for applause or wealth or fanfare. He built them because he believed good tools should be shared, not hoarded. He believed software should outlive its creator. He believed in solving problems elegantly and letting others build upon that foundation, and they did. Thousands of developers, millions of programmers, billions of devices, all tracing back to the work of a quiet scientist who just wanted computers to work better. Dennis Ritchie proved something essential. Real revolutionaries don't always need applause. Sometimes they just need a terminal, a problem worth solving. He wrote the language that taught machines to speak. He designed the system that taught computers to cooperate. He did it without fanfare, without fortune, without demanding recognition. And when he died, the world barely paused because it was too busy using the tools he'd given it. If you've ever written an email, browsed the internet, used a smartphone, or typed on a computer, you've touched Dennis Ritchie's legacy. He's in every line of code, every operating system, every device, not because he demanded to be remembered, but because he built something so fundamental, so elegant, so necessary that it became invisible, woven into the fabric of how we communicate, work, and live. That's not obscurity, that's immortality. Dennis McAllister Ritchie, September 9th, 1941 to October 12th, 2011. The quiet genius who changed everything and asked for nothing in return. I read this morning in a post by somebody anonymously. Fitting, isn't it? That this would be written about a man I've never heard of, and yet now realize how much impact he had and has on everything I do every day, and probably you as well. So behind every great man and woman, which you are, and you've had your time or will yet have your time in the sun, celebrating your own achievement, we, you and me, should always remember we get to where we get to in those moments and in every moment because of others. And the others are who we celebrate. The one who stands alongside of us through thick and thin, doesn't bail. The one who walks through the valley and enjoys the mountaintop and all over again. Those are the ones we celebrate. In this short video, we're celebrating Dennis Ritchie. Those who built fortunes on his back should remember that as well when they start thinking they're more than they really are. Thanks for watching. Maybe we'll find something else interesting in the days ahead, leading up to our next YouTube adventure, which will take place again in a specific country in Asia, starting Christmas night. Bye-bye.